I knew something was off when she came home with shopping bags from designer stores we couldn't afford. The credit card statement confirmed it. $3,000 spent in a single afternoon. This wasn't the woman I married 5 years ago. The one who understood the value of money because she once had none. We need to talk about these expenses, I said, placing the statement on the kitchen counter as she unpacked her new clothes. She didn't even look up. I work hard now. I deserve nice things. Her tone carried an edge I'd never heard before. 2 months into her new corporate job, and suddenly she was acting like her past never happened. The past where I found her waiting tables at a diner, living in a studio apartment she could barely afford, one paycheck away from the streets. The past where I helped her finish her degree, connected her with opportunities, supported her through every step until she landed this position. Your salary doesn't cover these purchases, I replied calmly. We have a budget for a reason. She rolled her eyes like a teenager. God, you're so controlling. Lighten up. That night, she didn't come home for dinner. No call, no text. She waltzed in at 2 a.m., reeking of expensive cocktails and wearing a dress I'd never seen. When I asked where she'd been, she laughed. Out with coworkers. You wouldn't understand. You're always working or at home. For 3 weeks, this became our new normal. Late nights, dismissive comments, password changes on her phone. I noticed her social media had changed too, suddenly filled with photos at clubs, surrounded by men in suits. No mention of being married. When tagged in a particularly questionable photo, my business associates started asking questions. I didn't raise my voice, didn't beg for explanations. Instead, I began paying attention to patterns. Thursday evenings, she always had team dinners. Her new mentor at work texted at all hours. The location sharing on her phone mysteriously disabled. After a particularly late night, she stumbled home clearly intoxicated. As she showered, her phone lit up on the counter. A message preview from her mentor appeared. Last night was amazing. When can we meet again without your husband knowing? I didn't confront her then. A weaker man might have exploded, demanded answers, or pleaded for the truth. Instead, I set her phone down exactly where she left it and went to my office. The next morning, I called my financial advisor and lawyer. If she wanted to relive her carefree single days, I would help her experience the complete package, including the financial reality she seemed to have forgotten. At breakfast, she nursed her hangover with coffee, avoiding eye contact. I thought we might have dinner together tonight, I said casually. It's been a while. Can't, she replied, scrolling through her phone. Important client meeting. Might run late. I nodded, sipping my coffee. No problem. Enjoy your meeting. As she left for work in another new outfit, I didn't kiss her goodbye. Instead, I watched through the window as she checked her makeup in the car mirror, applied fresh lipstick, and drove away smiling. She had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I didn't go to work. Instead, I called my private investigator, an old college friend who owed me several favors. Within hours, he delivered a detailed report confirming what I already suspected. My wife wasn't just having late dinners. She'd been meeting the same man, her so-called mentor, at a hotel downtown every Thursday for the past month. There were photos, time-stamped check-ins, and credit card receipts for champagne room service charged to her new corporate card. The real surprise came when I learned about her social media activity. She'd created separate accounts I wasn't meant to find, where she presented herself as single, ambitious, and available. There were flirtatious exchanges with multiple colleagues, complaints about feeling trapped in her personal life, and late-night messages that would make anyone's blood boil. But I didn't boil. I calculated. When she returned home that evening, I was sitting in the living room reviewing documents, not the investigator's report, but our financial records. You're home early, she said, tension evident in her voice. Busy day? Needed some quiet to review these. I gestured to the papers. Interesting news from work today? She shrugged, placing her designer bag on the counter. Same old corporate politics. Nothing exciting. I nodded. No interesting meetings with your mentor? Her eyes flickered momentarily. Just a quick lunch briefing. At the Grand Hotel? I asked casually, not looking up from my papers. The silence that followed was deafening. When I finally looked up, her face had drained of color. What are you talking about? Her voice trembled slightly. Let's not waste time, I said, setting the papers down. I know exactly where you've been and who you've been with. The only question is whether you'd like to have this conversation now or after I forward the evidence to your company's HR department." She exploded, transforming from deer in headlights to wounded aggressor in seconds. "You had me followed? Who do you think you are? A husband whose wife is cheating on him while spending money he earned." I replied evenly. "I earn my own money now," she shot back. "I don't need your permission or your control. This is exactly why I needed space. You treat me like property." I laughed, genuinely amused by her attempt to flip the narrative. "Is that what you tell yourself while booking hotel rooms on my credit card? That you're breaking free from control?" "It's not what you think," she backpedaled. "We're just colleagues." "Save it," I interrupted. "I've seen the messages." Desperation replaced defiance in her eyes. "Fine. It was a mistake. I was feeling neglected and—" I raised my hand, silencing her. "I'm not interested in excuses. I'm interested in actions and consequences." "What does that mean?" Worry crept into her voice. "It means things are going to change around here," I replied, standing up. "Starting tomorrow, you'll understand exactly what independence really costs." She followed me as I walked toward our bedroom. "So that's it. You're not even going to try to work this out? After everything we've been through?" I turned, looking at her with cool detachment. "You mean after everything I helped you through? Your financial struggles, your career development, your education that I paid for. Funny how quickly you forgot all that once you had a taste of corporate life." "I didn't forget," she whispered, tears forming. "Classic manipulation tactic." "Good," I nodded. "Because you're about to remember exactly what life was like before me. If independence is what you want, independence is what you'll get." I slept in the guest room that night. She knocked twice, trying to talk, but I didn't answer. There would be no emotional confrontation, no begging for explanations, no chance for her to twist the situation. Instead, I spent the night making calls, changing passwords, and setting my plan in motion. By morning, I had reconfigured our entire financial structure. Her awakening to real consequences was about to begin. When she came downstairs the next morning, I was already at the kitchen table with coffee, laptop open, focused on my work. No anger, no resentment visible on my face. Just calculated indifference. She approached cautiously, testing the waters. "Can we talk about last night?" "Nothing to discuss," I replied without looking up. "Your choices have been made clear." She sat across from me, still in her nightwear. "I made a mistake. It won't happen again." I closed my laptop and finally met her eyes. "You're right. It won't." Her relief was palpable but premature. I slid an envelope across the table. "What's this?" she asked. "Your new financial reality," I answered. "I've removed you from our joint accounts, canceled your supplementary credit cards, and allocated a monthly budget based on what you actually contribute to this household." She opened the envelope with trembling hands, scanning the document inside. Color drained from her face. "This is barely enough to cover basic expenses," she protested. "Exactly," I nodded. "Your actual contribution to our finances. The rest came from me, the controlling husband you've been so eager to escape." "But what about the mortgage? The utilities? My car payment?" "I'll continue covering the mortgage since the house is primarily in my name. As for the rest, welcome to independence. Your car payments are your responsibility now. Your shopping habits, your dinners out, your hotel rendezvous, all on your dime." She stood up, indignant. "You can't do this." "I already have," I replied calmly. "The transfers were completed last night. Your access was removed this morning. Your salary will deposit into your new individual account on Friday. I suggest budgeting carefully." "This is financial abuse," she shouted. "I'll tell everyone what you're doing." I maintained perfect composure. "By all means, explain to your friends how your husband stopped funding your affair. I'm sure they'll be very sympathetic." Her face contorted with rage and panic. "I need that money for what? Designer clothes? Hotel rooms? Drinks with your mentor?" I cut her off. "I've calculated exactly what you need for necessary expenses. Anything beyond that was a privilege you enjoyed as my wife, a role you've clearly abandoned." She stormed around the kitchen, grabbing her phone. "I'm calling my lawyer." "With what money?" I asked with genuine curiosity. "But please, go ahead. I've already consulted mine. They're quite interested in the evidence I've gathered." The reality of her situation began sinking in. Her salary alone wouldn't support the lifestyle she'd grown accustomed to, not even close. The luxury apartment we lived in, the car she drove, the vacations we took, all sustained by my income. "This is temporary," she insisted, more to herself than to me. We'll work through this. There is no we anymore, I clarified. You wanted freedom from this controlling relationship. I'm simply helping you achieve that goal. Later that day, her first taste of consequences arrived. Her attempt to buy lunch with our joint credit card was declined. She called, furious. The card was declined in front of everyone. Use your corporate card, I suggested. Or perhaps your mentor can cover it. Stop being petty, she hissed. I need access to our money. Our money? Interesting choice of words for someone who's been acting single. That evening, she returned home early for the first time in weeks. Her demeanor had shifted from outrage to calculating. She approached while I prepared dinner, sliding her arms around my waist. I've been thinking about what you said. You're right. I lost perspective. I gently removed her hands and continued chopping vegetables. Your perspective seems perfectly clear to me. Can't we move past this? She pressed. Everyone makes mistakes. I turned to face her. That's true. The difference is that most mistakes don't involve hotel rooms and champagne paid for with someone else's money. As reality continued settling in, her phone dinged with a notification. The luxury shopping app she frequented was alerting her to a payment decline. The awakening had officially begun. By the end of the week, her facade began cracking. The reality of living on just her salary hit harder than she expected. I watched with detached interest as she canceled her spa appointment, returned a dress she'd bought on her lunch break, and began bringing coffee from home instead of stopping at the expensive cafe. My phone buzzed constantly with her messages, alternating between angry accusations and desperate pleas. I responded minimally, if at all. This wasn't about punishing her. This was about consequences. I received an unexpected call from her mother, the same woman who had welcomed me into their family with open arms years ago when I helped her daughter escape financial ruin. She tells me you've cut her off completely, her mother said, concern evident in her voice. Interesting perspective, I replied calmly. Did she mention why? Something about you being controlling with money. But that doesn't sound like you. Did she mention her hotel visits with her work mentor? Or the thousands she's been spending while lying about her whereabouts? The silence on the other end told me everything. I had no idea. I've simply stopped funding activities that dishonor our marriage. She earns her own salary. She's free to spend it however she chooses. After we hung up, I received a furious text from my wife. How dare you tell my mother about our private business? I didn't respond. Instead, I continued with the next phase of my plan. When she arrived home that evening, I was packing a suitcase. Are you leaving? She asked, panic creeping into her voice. No, I replied without looking up. These are your things. She rushed over, grabbing at the clothes I was methodically folding. What the hell do you think you're doing? Helping you experience the independence you clearly desire, I explained, continuing to pack. I've rented you an apartment. Paid for the first month. After that, it's on you. You can't just throw me out, she shouted. I looked up, meeting her eyes. I'm not throwing you out. I'm setting you free. Isn't that what you wanted? The lease starts tomorrow. 1 bedroom, basic furnishings. Similar to what you had when we met. I won't go, she declared, crossing her arms. Then I'll have these delivered there anyway. I shrugged. And change the locks here. Your choice. Her phone rang, her mentor calling. She silenced it quickly, but not before I noticed. Shouldn't you get that? Perhaps he's offering accommodations, I suggested. Her expression confirmed my suspicions. He doesn't know about our situation. I nodded. You've been presenting yourself as a financially independent woman with access to resources you no longer have. Inconvenient. She sat on the edge of the bed, defeated. Why are you doing this? You made choices thinking there would be no consequences, I explained, zipping the suitcase closed. That stops now. That night, I received an email notification. She had attempted to transfer funds from our investment account, funds she no longer had access to. The desperation was escalating. The following day, while she was at work, I had her remaining belongings moved to the apartment I'd rented, a modest 1-bedroom in the same building where she'd lived when we first met. Symbolic, perhaps, but effective. When she returned that evening to find most of her things gone, she finally broke down. Not the manipulative tears from before, but genuine realization. You really want me gone, she whispered. I want you to experience exactly what you've been chasing, complete independence from the relationship you've taken for granted. She pulled out her phone, hands trembling. I'll tell everyone what you're doing. Your colleagues, our friends. I nodded, unconcerned. Before you do, check your email. I've sent you copies of the investigation report. Feel free to share those alongside your complaint. As she scrolled through the damning evidence, photos, text logs, hotel receipts, her righteous indignation collapsed. The address of your new apartment is on the counter, I said, walking toward my home office. I suggest you start packing what remains. Her world was contracting back to the reality she'd lived before, when every dollar mattered, when luxury was unattainable, when actions had immediate consequences. The awakening was now complete. A week passed. She moved to the apartment without further protest, taking only what belonged to her before our marriage. The silence between us was broken only by necessary logistical texts. No emotional pleas, no angry outbursts, just the cold reality of separation. I received an unexpected call from a colleague at her company. I thought you should know, he said, clearly uncomfortable. Your wife's mentor has been reassigned to another department. There are rumors about inappropriate relationships with subordinates. I thanked him for the information without revealing what I already knew. Corporate politics had their own way of delivering consequences. I maintained my routine, work, gym, social engagements. Friends noticed her absence, but respected my privacy when I offered minimal explanations. I neither vilified her nor played the victim. My dignity remained intact. 3 weeks into her new reality, her first paycheck proved insufficient for the lifestyle she'd maintained. Her credit card was declined at a restaurant while dining with coworkers. The embarrassment was just the beginning. Her mentor, now keeping professional distance due to workplace scrutiny, no longer answered her calls. When they passed in hallways, he averted his eyes, preservation of his career taking priority over whatever promises he'd made. The first rent payment for her apartment approached. Her salary, depleted by previous spending and without my financial support, wouldn't cover it along with her other expenses. Reality was setting in. I received a text. Can we meet? Please, just to talk. I agreed to coffee at a neutral location, a cafe downtown, far from our social circles. When she arrived, the transformation was striking. Gone were the designer clothes and confident swagger. She looked tired, stressed, wearing an outfit I recognized from years ago. She sat across from me, hands clutching her coffee cup. This is harder than I expected. Independence often is. I replied without malice. It's not just the money, she admitted. It's everything. My mentor barely acknowledges me now. Coworkers whisper when I walk by. The glamour faded fast. I listened without interrupting. This wasn't about revenge. It was about realignment with reality. I can't afford next month's rent, she finally confessed. My credit cards are maxed out. I had no idea how expensive everything really was. Because I handled it, I stated simply. The bills, the investments, the planning. While you criticized me for being controlling. Tears formed in her eyes. I know. I see that now. What are you asking for? I kept my tone neutral, neither cold nor encouraging. A second chance, she whispered. I made terrible mistakes. I got caught up in attention and freedom I thought I wanted. I took a sip of my coffee, considering my response carefully. You didn't just make mistakes. You made choices. Repeated, deliberate choices to betray our marriage while benefiting from its financial security. She flinched at the accuracy of my assessment. And now that the consequences are uncomfortable, you want to return to comfort. It's not just comfort, she protested weakly. I miss us. What we had. I shook my head. You didn't miss us during hotel meetings with your mentor. You didn't miss us while hiding conversations and creating secret accounts. She stared at the table, unable to maintain eye contact. Your rent is due in 1 week, I noted. What's your plan? I don't have one, she admitted. I can't ask my parents. They can barely support themselves. Friends have their own problems. And your mentor? A bitter laugh escaped her. He made it clear our relationship was contingent on my perceived status. The moment rumors started, he disappeared. I nodded, unsurprised. Men who pursue married women rarely have honorable intentions. As our meeting concluded, I left her with a simple statement. Decisions have consequences. The life you're experiencing now is the direct result of choices you made. Whatever happens next will depend on choices I make. I walked away without looking back, leaving her to contemplate the precarious position her actions had created. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd rejected the stability I provided, chasing excitement and freedom, only to find herself exactly where she'd been before we met. Broke, struggling, and alone. 3 days before her rent was due, I received a call from the apartment manager. She had inquired about breaking the lease. The financial penalties made it impossible. Reality continued closing in around her. That evening, a lengthy email arrived in my inbox. She detailed her remorse, acknowledged her betrayal, and begged for another chance. Not just financial support, but reconciliation. The email included screenshots of her resignation letter to the company where her affair began and promises of complete transparency moving forward. I didn't respond immediately. Strategic patience had served me well throughout this ordeal. When her rent deadline arrived, I learned she had borrowed money from a coworker, a humiliating solution that bought her another month but deepened her financial hole. Her credit score plummeted as payments were missed. The consequences of her choices were cascading beyond my direct involvement. I finally invited her to meet at our house, the home she had so eagerly abandoned for hotel rooms and false independence. When she arrived, her appearance told the story of her struggle. The confident, entitled woman who had dismissed our marriage had been replaced by someone who understood the value of what she'd discarded. She stood awkwardly in the entryway, no longer feeling entitled to the space she once commanded. "Thank you for seeing me." I gestured toward the living room. "Have a seat." She moved tentatively, taking in the familiar surroundings with new appreciation. "The house looks the same. Why wouldn't it?" I remained standing, maintaining the power position. "I didn't know if you'd change things, remove traces of me. I've been focused on more important matters," I replied. She nodded, recognizing the implied dismissal of her importance. "I don't know how to begin making this right." "That assumes it can be made right," I stated matter-of-factly. Her eyes welled with tears. "Are you saying there's no chance for us?" I took a seat across from her, maintaining eye contact. "I'm saying reconciliation isn't a given just because reality became uncomfortable. It's more than discomfort," she insisted. "Everything I thought I wanted turned out to be hollow. The independence, the excitement, the attention, none of it was worth what I lost." I nodded. "An important realization. Unfortunately, it came after, not before, you betrayed our marriage." I opened my laptop and turned the screen toward her. On display were 2 documents side by side. "What are these?" she asked. "2 paths forward," I explained. "The first is divorce papers. Clean break, fair settlement. You walk away with what you legally deserve, which is considerably less than what you enjoyed during our marriage." She stared at the document, the finality of it clearly affecting her. "The second," I continued, "is a post-nuptial agreement. Very specific terms regarding financial control, transparency, and consequences should you ever repeat your recent behavior." Hope flickered across her face. "You'd consider staying together?" "I consider a probationary period," I clarified. 6 months during which you would experience exactly what life was like before I came along. The apartment I rented for you, the budget based solely on your income, the struggle you seemed to have forgotten." Her confusion was evident. "But we'd be together?" "No. We'd be legally married, but living separately. You would experience the consequences of your actions fully before any possibility of reconciliation. No financial support. No emotional cushioning. Just the reality you created through your choices." She struggled to process this proposition. "And after 6 months?" "After 6 months, if you've honored every term of the agreement, we reassess. No guarantees." "That seems extremely harsh," she whispered. "Harsh?" I laughed without humor. "I offered you everything: financial security, emotional support, a partnership. You repaid that with lies, betrayal, and entitlement. Now you're experiencing the natural consequences of your actions, and you call it harsh." She had no response to this truth. "The apartment lease is paid through next month," I continued. "You have 30 days to decide which document you want to sign: divorce or probation with strict terms. During that time, I suggest reflecting on how quickly you forgot what life was like when every dollar mattered." As she left, visibly shaken by the reality of her options, I felt no satisfaction or vindication. This wasn't about punishment. It was about consequences and clarity. Whether she chose divorce or probation, one thing was certain: she would never again mistake my generosity for weakness or my support for obligation. She would never again forget the value of what she had so carelessly discarded. and I would never again invest in someone who saw my contribution as something to exploit rather than appreciate.
Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.